Hi, my name is Gay Rawson, and I'd like to talk to you today about a new technology tool named Yellowdig and how you might use it to help create community in your programs. I am a French professor at Concordia College in Moorhead, Minnesota. I teach all levels of college French, novice to advanced, and I teach preschool at Cobber Kids ages 33 months to 5. And with Star Talk, in the past we had a student and a teacher program with Fargo Public Schools in Chinese. So our elementary students were grades 3 through 5, middle school grades 6 through 8, and now we're just focusing on the teacher program with a teaching and learning lab for some of the elementary and middle school students. So I've been thinking a lot about community and attending virtual conferences, and it seems that this is really the topic that is being emphasized the most at the sessions that I go to. I just came from a session in February with the AAC&U, and they talked about how student success is vital, of course, and to achieve that, we need to develop community. And over again, this idea of how community is important for student success was repeated. In fact, the conferences are saying the single most important thing we do to help our students learn and succeed is to create community. So I'm really, especially in our online format, I'm trying to be very careful about how we do this and intentional. But it's important in any format. Just we might have some more challenges if we're teaching online. And one of those challenges is kind of the distance we have with Zoom, and Zoom fatigue is real. And so what do we do when we need to get our students feeling connected and we can't, go physically and be in the same place? Or if we're in the same place, we have to be social distance with masks. And so Yellowdig is one of the solutions that I am interested in and I wanted to share with you. And so I actually contacted them, and they've helped with me develop some of these slides. And so we know from research, when students feel that they are part of a group, they learn better. And that's what Yellowdig does. It's a social media kind of approach to assignments that is fostering community. And this is a slide from Yellowdig, and I really like how it is showing you that social presence. We are social beings. We have the cognitive presence. We need to construct meaning and confirm it and have reflection built into what we're doing. Then there is, of course, the teacher presence, and how does that fit in? And you can see where these circles overlap. And at the heart of it, the way Yellowdig organizes it is this educational experience. And so they have the social component, they have the cognitive component, they have the teacher presence, but they also let the students really run with it, and it's powerful to watch. I think this works especially well for interpersonal communication, but it's asynchronous, right? But the students are posting and responding to each other, and that's the magic of it. You could adapt it, I think, for interpretive and presentational. Of course, they're writing or talking, and so you've got videos that you can upload. You've got text. It really does work in all of the modes. So I think the can-do statements I wrote are: I can connect with peers in my class, I feel like part of a learning community, and I can use the target language to communicate. I'm hoping to use this in our teacher program, so I think that sense of community and student engagement and student responsibility for learning is really powerful. But you could have your students in a student language program writing in Chinese or writing in Arabic, for example. So what is it? It's kind of like an online forum on steroids. That's my picture there, but in a positive sense, right? And so it's designed for your students and you. It uses some aspects of gamification, so a reward system and positive reinforcement. We know that's a great motivator, and it is adapted to take into account typical student behavior and make it better. And so when we use online forums in a regular class, I use them, right? I make my post and I say I need an answer by Friday, and nobody answers until Thursday, and then I want them to comment on each other's posts, and half the time they don't. And I set up all of these places for students to share information and to, you know, to get extra credit points by sharing information. And I have a few that do, but it depends on the semester. Some semesters are great, some semesters it's, very sparse. And I really am trying to get the students talking to each other. And I think that's what Yellowdig does. So it's a support for learning that is really taking into account all of these different areas, right? And so it develops that sense of community. Learners want to respond, and they respond more often. And the instructors can we set up the frame, we set up a few prompts, and then the learners fill it and they take it from there. And they can be setting up questions and frames and those kinds of things. So it's really fun to watch it happen. I think it was mostly designed originally for middle and high school and college students, or maybe designed for older students. But when I spoke with them, they said that it could be adapted for elementary students, they thought. And if you were doing it for elementary, probably the teacher would need to put in some more prompts that the students could respond to. The students might not be ready to take off on autonomous learning quite to the same extent that high school and college students could do. And they were checking with the language characters and making sure it would work with all of our languages. I'm not sure. There were some technical issues that they were working out in terms of getting the text to display in the right direction for Arabic, for example. So I would encourage you to check with them to make sure that your characters and your language will display in the way that you need. So to get started, contact them to get a free instructor account and demo, and I highly recommend taking the instructor certification course. And then you set up your system, how many points you want, that's kind of the reward piece, your expectations for posting, and then some basic prompts. And that's where backward design is really important. So what do you want them to get through the end of it? What are your program goals? And maybe put in some prompts for those major learning moments that you want to assess. And then you send your students the link and get them started with the first topic. I usually have a kind of get to know you topic, and it goes from there. I'm going to maybe stop my PowerPoint for a second and just show you my screen. And so I've logged into my Yellowdig account, right? And I don't have any live classes right now, but it's really easy. You just go here to create community. You click create community. I started one, right? And as soon as you do here, they send you this information to walk you through what you would do next and give you some of their best practices and some of their tips. And then essentially once you set up those points, right, that's the piece that takes the most thinking, I think, is that backward design piece. What are you trying to accomplish? How do you want to get there? How do you want to encourage your students, to get there? And that's where you set up those point values. So I haven't thought that through all the way yet, so I haven't done it here. But you'll see you have activity, you have your members, you get lots of data. You can play with the settings, and you just send your students the link here, and then they can be posting. And so it's right, like I said, right now I haven't started any, but you can see everything here. You can send your messages here. And so I think it's something that you'll find very easy to set up and use, and they are very responsive to any needs that you might have. So let's go back to where we were. And so the biggest part, the hardest part, is that backward design and rethinking our pedagogies a little bit. Right? When I first did the instructor training, it seemed a little bit complicated. So I'm using their suggestions for how to set up points, right? And so here is the default, and that's what I start with. And so they are incentivized to create, students are incentivized to create a new post. You see they get 150 points. And then commenting, and then if they receive comments or they receive reactions, they get points as well. So it really tries to suggest to them, don't just say nice job, right? If you go a little bit farther, you can get better reactions, and then you can get more points, which is that gamification piece that they like. It also does limit it because it wants it to be used often. So rather than a 500-word post, having more posts with fewer words, and really, again, the point is community. So I think these strategies are very effective, and I have some of their data and some of their blogs, right? And so those standard discussion pedagogy forums that I was describing are kind of on the left side of this continuum. Now, this is their chart, but it works. It accomplishes what I need. It's not super exciting. My students don't love it, right? And so they are over on the other side, and you can see they've designed this for a semester, but we talked about how it's easy to compress it down to a tighter, you could go by weeks, for example. And so you start off maybe, getting them knowing the rules and the prompts and the structures, and then pretty soon they're off and on their own. And so you can measure community health very easily, and some of the stats that they gave me to show success, because I didn't have a course that I could share with you, are things like how much over the minimum did they did, how many people got 100%. And so here are some of the data that they collected, and they've had third-party groups talk about what they're seeing, 2 times more the engagement compared to a traditional discussion forum or discussion board. More students are staying in the class and then getting higher grades in the class. Here are the number of students that went beyond 100%. I'm hoping to even get my students to participate. I'm nowhere near, 100% in terms of the amount of students that participate. And here you have students that were going over. They have lots of these graphs as well, that show the students on the outside are sending in responses, but they're not connected to the class. So there were 4 outliers in this study that Northwestern completed, but you see the vast majority of their students are connected in multiple ways. And that's kind of what these graphs, I think, are showing too, right? The students are going in and they're getting lots of responses back. And, in 2018, you saw this group 7.74 comments per post. That's pretty amazing. And that's what I want. I want to have that conversation that is happening outside of my classroom and continuing on a regular basis. And that's, I think, what Yellowdig allows with their structure. And so I would encourage you to take a look at it. They have a free pilot, and so they have said for this summer, I explained that our budgets were already due. We could contact them to set up a free pilot. Here is their contact information. Jim is really great to work with, and so here's my advice is give it a try. We are all trying to create community. We are trying to bridge these gaps in a pandemic, and even outside of the pandemic, but especially right now, this seems like a really timely tool that might be the solution to the problem we have of engaging our students, motivating our students, and creating community. So thank you. Have a great day.